Firstly, I'll apologise. Once again, there's not going to be any sailing in this particular film. In a way, it's a bit of an advert because we're going to sell this. But as probably a lot of you won't have a clue what this is, I thought I'd just show you what I'm about to sell. It's called a Vortex. There it is. It's kind of part catamaran, part dinghy. I'll uncover it and I'll show you what it's like. So while the cover's coming off, here's a bit of film you can find on YouTube. It's of the early days of a Vortex, before they had the asymmetric spinnaker, but it does show what fun they can be. So as the keen-eyed of you would have already worked out, it's a single-handed boat with a trapeze, with a spinnaker, but what kind of looks like two hulls. It was designed, I don't know when it was designed, around 2000, something like that, probably 15 years ago, by a very well-known British designer called Joe. Is it Joe Richards? I think it's Joe Richards. He's that well known, I can't remember his name. I think it is. Hannah and I like him because among many boats he designed a dead cat bounce, which is the trendy National 12 to have now. National 12 is one of the oldest established dinghy classes here in the UK. It's a development class, and we've had a couple of National 12s, and probably the reason for selling this Vortex is that we might have found a well, not babysitter's the wrong term, but a means of someone having Hannah on someone having Elizabeth on a Sunday morning, enabling Hannah and I to go sailing. So I bought this only a couple of months ago, and that in itself's a story. I used to own this boat about 5 years ago. It's the first Vortex I owned, and I had a lot of fun in it, but I sold it for various reasons, because of Elizabeth and one thing or another. And then a few months ago, when I was thinking I need to go dinghy sailing again, I need to buy a single hander because Hannah and I can't both go sailing at the same time. What shall I get? And this came up on the market, so I thought, someone's speaking to me, I should buy it. And then I bought it. I've used it twice, and circumstances have changed again. And it seems selfish of me just to keep this to sail on my own, so we'll sell it and we'll try and buy a two-man boat to go sailing again. Ideally a National 12, ideally a dead cat bounce from Joe Richards, but it isn't going to be too much money. Anyway, let me show you a Vortex. So it's got two wetted hulls, if you like a catamaran, but it's all moulded in one piece like a dinghy, which is why it kind of falls between the gap, if you like, of a definition. In some ways it's a tunnel hulled dinghy, like scows and things used to be for a while, but it's kind of a class on its own. And to be honest, it sails a little bit like a cross between a cat and a dinghy. It's small and manageable like a dinghy. It tacks relatively well, nowhere near as good as a dinghy, and there's a definite knack to getting one to tack, but it tacks okay. It goes upwind, downwind fine like a dinghy would, but of course you've got two hulls. You do have this, you can play the game of kind of balancing it on one hull as you're going upwind or downwind, come to that, to reduce the wetted area, and it's good fun. It's got a relatively, I can't get far enough back, relatively large fully battened mainsail. It's not that big, but it's big enough. I think it's something like 11 square metres, something like that, which given the width, which isn't really that much wider than a normal dinghy, if anything, it's probably narrower in some dinghies. So given that, but you do have a trapeze, it's the right amount of sail area for the boat. But it's also got pretty large asymmetric spinnaker on the front. When the class was first designed, it was just a single sail boat. The spinnaker was added a few years later. The class got off to a fantastic start. Loads of boats were sold, had loads of publicity, everyone seemed to like them, and then over the years, as often happens with new classes, things started to dwindle and numbers went down, and boats like the Musto Skiff and the RS 700 came along, which were single-handed boats which had a spinnaker on. So the class decided to rejuvenate itself and came up with this kit that you could buy to put a spinnaker on it. And you have to say, it fits so perfectly, you can't believe the boat wasn't designed with it in mind in the first place. And it really does transform the boat. They were always good fun upwind once you got over the tacking, and like I say, it's a knack, it's not impossible to do. Anyone when they first get in one finds it hard work, but with a bit of practice you can get the hang of it. But downwind was always a bit, you just sat in the boat and didn't do much. With the spinnaker added, it really transforms it. They're not exactly exciting in just force 1 maybe up to a 2. They kind of stick, they don't really get going, but after that they really take off, and then when you get to say a force 6, things start getting very exciting. They're very narrow at the bow, it digs in a lot, so it's still sailable, but it becomes a different challenge, but they're good fun. I don't think they went anywhere really other than the UK, so we have viewers now all over the world. I expect most of you have never seen one of these, and you see some of these, I don't know what they call that, these beach catamarans, kind of little moulded plastic things for fun. Nothing like that. This is a serious racing machine. It's a proper dinghy, and they go properly quick, and the fleet has started to rejuvenate itself now. There are some new boats being built, but there's a big gap between the original sort of older boats like this one and the new boats. So for the money I'm asking for this, or to be honest, the money it's worth, because Vortexes don't go for much money now, you would be very hard pressed to find a boat as fast and as much fun for this amount of money. So it's very good. I'll quickly show you around this one. Just on the off chance you're watching this and you are interested, it's all condition in keeping with the age. The spinnaker is tired, it's got a couple of patches on it, but it sets well and it flies okay. The mainsail, again, has had a couple of repairs up the luff, but again, it sets okay and it sails fine. I re-roped it 4 years ago when I had it last, and I don't think it's been changed since then, but the guy I bought it off, who bought it from me, who I then subsequently bought it off, never sailed it that much, so it's just sat underneath its cover. The cover again is kind of tired but serviceable. And feature of course that, again, those of you that don't know Vortexes might have already spotted, it doesn't have a centre dagger board, it has 2 lee boards. And you'll notice the funny angle of them. The idea is that when you get going and you've got all the weight on one hull, that foil in the water starts to give a bit of lift, and it's actually the foil that's almost coming out the water that kind of gives you your grip going sideways. I can't say that I've ever really noticed it work like that, but that's what the designer intended, and I have no reason to disbelieve him. He's very good at his job. But this particular boat is basically in good condition. Like I say, it's got a few marks, but as you can see, there's no real repairs to the hull. It's all clean. They're famous for having the transoms damaged because people can't get on with a daggerboard style rudder, but this one's perfectly tidy. No repairs underneath. To my knowledge, it doesn't take any water in, but I've only used it a couple of times. It certainly didn't take any water in when I owned it the first time. So I'll pull the spinnaker up. I'll drop the mainsail because the wind's all over the place. I'll pull the spinnaker up so you can see that. As I said, it's got a couple of patches. It's an older spinnaker and it hasn't got that crispy new set feel to it anymore, but it's there, it sets. Hard to see it on the camera. And it flies well and it goes up and down perfect. So yeah. So before I wrap this up, let's show you one of the few films I have of this boat in action. When Izzy and I took part in the club's pursuit race, and Izzy went trapezing.
Are you? You wet? Oh, you're doing fantastic, baby. Wow. Did you hold that and I'll take the steer? No, it's on me. You just literally help me.
This does demonstrate one of the great strengths of the Vortex, in that for a performance boat it's really stable, so you can have a lot of fun while you're learning, or you can take the family out and they can enjoy the thrills as well.
I wasn't expecting to find her trapezing like that.
Anyway, that's a Laser Vortex. Next week we might go sailing. Hopefully this weekend, and it's probably going to be, it'll be too late for me to get out on this Friday. But anyway, this weekend it's the next race in the single-handed racing series. So as long as I get myself in gear, and I'll be able to film it, and hopefully Hannah can get out on Grandad's boat and we can do some shots from off water as well, so I'm on the water as well, so should be good. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Ian. This is Sailing with the Foxwell family. I've got to pack this away now. I didn't pick the best of nights, did I? It was sunny when I got here. Now the sun's gone in, it's windy, it's all over the place, and it does look a bit like it's going to rain, so I better get cracking. See you next week.